Chris and Dan show. What is up, guys and gals? I think it's in that order on this channel. Um, a lot of people came for their reactions and stayed for the political satire from Chris and
Satire. All
the
right.
political indifference from me, which is actually a good topic for this
Before,
video.
because I know some people are going to wonder, and as I'm wondering right now, what is that image in your background? It looks like a mech warrior or something.
It's Mad Max.
Mad Max. Okay, there you go.
Mad Max, because that's where a lot of Republicans think. When I'm on Twitter, there's two camps. There's actually three, and I like to be in the put myself in the middle, and people on both sides say I'm not committal, but I think that's where reason is. So, and I knew
The
this is
fence
gonna piss
sitter.
you off. I know this is gonna piss you off, and I'm not insulting you in
So
any means.
what I hear you saying is fence sitter is where reason is. Got to be a fence sitter.
There's a lot of value on the fence.
Okay.
So you don't. One of them is you don't get caught up in echo chambers.
Uh-huh.
So it's very popular to bash the left. I mean, they have like ridiculous. They've gone so far. I'm the last one to be defending them. I'm gonna preface this with that.
Okay.
Like they're ridiculous. They shouldn't come after kids and all that nonsense. And
Got another
they
question for you.
they've
Completely
become the
agree.
party of corruption and the party of warmongering.
Completely agree. But you think there's value in conviction, both from the left and the right. Is there value in conviction?
If you honestly believe it, yeah. Most people are just they don't think for themselves.
Right. Okay. So if you have, so what I hear you saying is if you have logic to back up your position or at least rationale, then there's something there, whether you're right or wrong.
Most people have an ideal vision of who they are, and then they associate with those kind of people, and then they stop thinking for themselves, and whatever those people say is what they are. It makes it easy for them to act in life.
Completely agree. Okay. Completely agree. 100%.
So I try not to do that. If you call that no conviction, fine. I try to make my own values, as difficult as that is, and not always possible these days.
No, that's conviction too. You just take information from all sides and then you
I try.
right.
I'm
And
human.
then you formulate an opinion.
Yes, but I'm human. I get caught up in
Sure.
narratives, and part of this background is the narrative to what the right thinks that is happening to the country. And
I think the left thinks that too.
I think maybe the left wants this, but
I agree. I agree. I think
the
they do.
right thinks this is happening, and the truth is somewhere in between. It's not. That's not the case. It's still the United States of America. Shout out to all our European and Asian viewers, and also the ones from Africa and Latin America. We love you guys. This is probably having similar conversations in your country or your regions.
Well, I mean,
The whole world's polarized.
Let's look at France. What's going on there? I mean,
But what happened though? That died down.
did it?
I'm on Twitter every day. I haven't heard things anymore since like for a few days. I think that's squashed. I think that was like the BLM riots we had here in 2021, and it just died down after a week.
I don't know. I didn't hear anything when it started. I didn't hear anything. I mean, I'm not really hearing anything.
But yeah, but you're not on Twitter.
I am
if you're
a
on
little.
Twitter, okay, a little, but you're not on there enough to have like context for who's talking and who's not. There were active tweets quick to show how chaotic it is and how it's falling apart, and showing the same videos over and over again, and making it seem like it's multiple times, like, all that stuff. The media, which these days everyone's a media person.
So what I hear you saying is basically France stopped this stuff. Said no, we're not.
I think it just stopped. I think it stopped. Yeah.
Well, I doubt it stopped on its own. I'm sure some authority came in and stopped it.
I heard they were going to shut down internet, but I don't, you know how you hear things, it's like nonsense. This lady, completely unrelated, thought there was a lizard person on her flight.
I saw that. Left. Some blonde lady.
She left. This is actually good. This is a good icebreaker. Some lady thought a reptilian was on her flight because
Not
she.
a reptilian.
Yes,
No, that's
I
not
know
what
the
I got from
backstory. I know the backstory too. I went down this rabbit hole.
She was freaking out about some dude in a hoodie.
Yeah, she said that man's not real.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
saw him how he blinked.
Okay.
The reptilian is what she's going at because it's a narrative that people have been spewing, and she's
Okay,
probably
so
off her meds,
wait,
and
wait,
she
wait.
probably believed it.
So this is I didn't follow this probably as much as you. I gave it like 20 minutes of my time.
Okay,
Um, and
I
to
put
my
like 45.
to my understanding, some other dude also was like this.
Yes,
Okay, and he got arrested. She was let go. So the thought was there must be something to her story since there was no
hmm
pursuit of legal action against her.
and there was another dude who completely made up a story that he was on the flight.
Hmm.
This is how scary our media is where we're at. This dude completely made up a story. He even said it was a project of his.
Okay.
He said in a previous TikTok, I'm going to make up a story about this lady to see how naive people are.
Okay.
His is verbatim. And then
That
he did it. And then everyone used that as evidence. See, this guy was also on the flight and he said he saw this. He's laughing the whole time. Look how naive and stupid people are.
Oh, I agree. So I don't know anything about that, but certainly understandable. And in terms of media, I don't think you can trust the media at all any
You
longer.
can't. No more media and also
As
no more
long
independent media.
No, I think honestly, I think independent media to a degree is a little more trustworthy, but I agree with you. None of it's trustworthy at this point.
That was this guy's point in making
Yeah,
this. I'm going to completely make a fake story so that
sure.
the narrative, he knows exactly what we're talking about. There's two sides to every story. In this case, it was the reptilians versus the non.
Mhm.
I'm going to get all the reptilian people to say, see, you're right. And that's why that thing went viral, too.
Sorry, I need more light out in here.
So that's why that thing went viral because he knew how to manipulate the narrative of one crowd. And this is a trick that everyone's using now. If you're in traditional media, social media, I don't care. You're manipulating your listeners and your viewers, and
Well,
you're incentivized to do that.
what traditional media, to my understanding, is doing is they're taking a source, like you're saying, and saying, okay, well, we have a reporting source here, and then they may be wrong, the initial one to rely on that source, but then others are taking that established media source and saying, okay, we have confirmation here,
That's right.
and re-reporting on that, and
That's
just
right.
rolling with that. And
Right.
it's just like, oh my goodness. So
And the
you have,
independent little clickbaiters
yep,
that are doing the same thing on their blogs or on their
yep,
tweets.
yep,
It's just they know how to game the crowds because right now it's very easy to do. There's two crowds
yep,
for almost any topic. There's like two sides,
yep.
and one loves to believe and see to confirm what they believe because it makes them feel smarter, and the other same thing, and then they
Well,
use their own stuff as evidence against the others.
so there's there's good and bad to what's going on now. So I would argue that this has been going on since radio, right? So there was radio, then there was TV, and before that it was print. So even during print times, I would say this has been going on.
Video killed the radio star.
They've been manipulating people for 200 years now.
Yep. Yep.
And I would, so what I would say is good about what's going on now is you're getting so many different sources. Somebody's telling the truth. You just have to kind of figure it out on your own. Where's the truth, right? You just have so much information you can delve into now as an individual to figure out what is true.
But most people don't go to the lengths of even like it takes humility to do their research and say and come to the conclusion what I believe to be the truth was wrong.
Don't disagree, but
No one's doing that.
what I'm saying though is and now instead of being just uh, instead of just being led like sheep, right, which is what's been going on with print, then radio, then television, which even I would even argue in Walter Cronkite's time, which everybody trusted, you were being led like a sheep.
How to
right?
lie with statistics. This is written in the
Yeah,
20s how they did it.
yeah. But what I'm saying is now there's so much information out there, you can actually find the truth.
That's where
No,
I'm not sure, man.
I would say you can.
I think it's never been easier to find the truth,
Right.
but it's never been more difficult to cut through the noise, and it's never been more difficult to swallow some humility. So when
No,
you are exploring to find that you are wrong and continue to go down the rabbit hole to find the truth, most people, I would say 90% of people are unwilling to do that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But what I'm saying is previously you did not have access to the truth.
Right. So the access is not the problem then. It's
Right.
people's humility.
You have access to the truth if you wish to seek it out. Whereas before the internet, you did not. You
Right.
only had what you were told.
Right. And you know how I found out about that guy? This is how easy it is. And this is where I think censorship, if used in the right way, helps. Was on Twitter. I watched that guy's video, the one where he's trying to manipulate me. And then underneath it says users have reported, it was Twitter's little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Users have reported this not accurate and here's why. And it linked to his original post where he literally wrote, I will do an experiment to see how people are easy to be manipulated. Now, if it wasn't for that little thing, I would have just kept scrolling through my Twitter feed like, oh, the two people saw this, what, and moved on
What's going on? Right.
to another story. But because of that little censorship, which as libertarians, you and I are inherently both against, in this case,
No, I believe
that's
in
an example of, huh?
I believe in some censorship.
I mean, that's an argument for it right there.
No,
Like,
it
that's a
totally is.
service to the community of what I
Everybody,
just experienced.
everybody who's rational believes in some censorship, right? Because if you didn't believe in some censorship, then you would be for child pornography,
Mm-hmm.
right? So everybody of a rational, logical mind believes in some censorship, but where's the line?
Yeah.
So
I think the line is when it actually harms someone. Like, and then that's a blurred line from there. But yeah, I mean, the whole point of my background and all this is it's very easy for people to be manipulated. And I'm on Twitter. I follow both sides, like the hardcore right, the hardcore left, a lot of in betweens, and both hardcores, like the hardcore right and the hardcore left, they don't think for themselves. They're sheep on both sides.
well, I think if you just swallow everything you're told, uh,
Yeah.
I think you're a sheep,
Yeah. Because
right?
you know how many anti vaxxers? There are several good arguments for the vaccine. It worked. It worked. There had some level of efficacy in the elderly to prevent
That's
early deaths.
my line right there with the vaccine, with the particular vaccine that you're referring to. That's my line, right? I've talked to a lot of people who just completely anti-vaccine, and I'm like, no, there's data that shows it worked for the elderly.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, if you're under 70, it's your call. If you're over 70, or if you got really, you got cancer and we're going through
Yep.
chemotherapy and things like that, then there's an argument there for the vaccine. But everybody else, it's up to them.
Right. But if you jumped on a Twitter convo on an extreme right thread with this rationale without them even knowing you, they would
Yeah,
say, "Oh, pharma shill. You work in research industry. You're a
sure,
pharma shill."
sure,
When in reality, what you're doing is thinking for yourself,
right.
right? And this is missing. Like, and you may have done it there in that example, and I may try to do that in other examples, and then in other ones, we're humans. We get caught up in it too.
Certainly, certainly. That's why I think somebody, and I've said this now for since I've known you, Dan.
I know.
Somebody needs to develop some sort of media or organization in which all they're after is the truth,
So,
right?
who's the
And
closest to have done that so far?
in my opinion,
Yeah, in your opinion, I mean,
so I think Joe Rogan's good at it, but I don't agree with him politically, but he will admit when he's made a mistake or he's been wrong, right? And a lot of media organizations, they just sweep it under the rug. The problem is everybody's too quick to jump to here's the truth, right? The
Right.
truth takes time to figure out, especially
Yes.
with all the information there is out there now, right?
And the
And
truth is dynamic sometimes, like it changes, especially
exactly,
in the middle of a pandemic.
exactly. So what somebody needs to do is be able to say, "Hey, here's what I believe the truth is, but this is an evolutionary thing, right? This topic, right? This topic's it's not always black and white, and it's evolutionary." Um, a lot of times it is black and white though, and I think certain media organizations tend to just flat out lie to you, right? Because it is black and white what the truth is. Like, let's take an example. So unfortunately, what you gave an example to is where a lot of times going to follow what we're told by people that we kind of trust or a political opinion that we trust in. So my opinion on the Ukraine war has evolved. Okay, I'm not sure what's correct. So I'm anti-war and always have been to a degree, but there are certain times in which war is necessary. And I so at first I was very anti-Ukrainian war, very, right? Because the political opinions that I follow also gave good arguments on why they were anti-war. So it's like, okay, well, I'm already kind of anti-war to begin with, right? That's just my kind of position to begin with, unless you give me legitimate proof or rationale or logical reasons on why we should be in this war. Okay. And I hadn't heard any. Well, guess what? From somebody on the left, and nobody's espousing this point, but I heard it from somebody on the left, and this is why Dan's saying you need both sides, right? You need to listen to both sides, and I do. I get most of my information from those on the right, but I do listen to the left as well. So I heard somebody make this argument, and I was like, okay, why haven't I not heard this anywhere else, either from the left or the right? And this was just said in passing, like it was no big issue. To me, that was the only issue to be at war, right? And what they said was, okay, back in the USSR, when the USSR was the USSR, they had the most nuclear weapons in the world, right? United States, very close second. So when the USSR fell, most of their nuclear warheads were stationed in Ukraine, right? And the United States said to Ukraine when it became independent, listen, we don't want you to be a nuclear power. And the Ukraine said, well, why do we want to give up our nuclear warheads, right? This is how we threaten people and keep our borders, right? And the United States made a treaty with them, which I was unaware of or I had forgotten. And the United States said, listen, we will defend your borders. You can count on us. We'll sign a treaty with you. If you're attacked by anybody, we will defend you. Right? Okay, well, so the argument now is, well, we signed that treaty, and I think we have to maintain our treaties. You give your word on something, and now that body of people who gave up their military and their capability of defending their borders, they gave them up, these nuclear warheads. So now we just say, well, too bad. I'm sorry you agreed to that. I mean, that's kind of wrong, right? So, yeah. But conversely to that is there are generations alive that would have to fight that war, right? And have to give money to that war that are now adults. When that was signed in 1991, weren't alive then. They're paying taxes now. They could risk their lives in that. They didn't sign on. They didn't vote for that, right? So that's the counter argument to why we shouldn't be in that war. So I don't know what the solution is. What I'm saying, though, is I'm more open to the Ukrainian war now than I was previously because I had not known that or I had forgotten that, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, it's a good example, actually, of what people should be doing, but that took a lot of time. And who has time in this modern day microwave content world? I mean, especially the youth. TikTok is like 3 seconds. They make their decision will they continue watching or not, and they just scroll up and down. And so we're in the age of like not doing your own fact checking, and it's very bad.
And I completely agree. And what I see is just people arguing, well, I'm told I should be for the Ukrainian war. let's fly a LGBTQ flag with a Ukrainian symbol on it because that's what we support. And they're just doing it because it's tribal. They're not
Yeah,
thinking for
exactly.
themselves.
Exactly right.
Same thing on the right. I bet you most people who are anti-Ukrainian war really aren't aware that we have signed treaties with Ukraine saying we will defend and protect you. At least we don't have boots on the ground over there really to speak of, when really that's what we signed on for. Right. Same thing in Taiwan. I'm more opposed to China than Russia, so I'm more for defending that treaty than Ukraine, because Ukraine is really corrupt and Taiwan's a very free society.
So why not? You said we're missing this place.
This media organization that delves into and tries to find the truth and just give you that. I think that would be.
I can't imagine this doesn't exist, but you're saying you've searched far and wide.
Where is it?
I don't know. I don't search for this stuff.
Who can you depend on to be 100% truthful, at least at the moment, right?
So you're basically looking at to take all the data from like Twitter, and which Elon's trying to prevent people from doing, and put together like, because it's all data now, right? Or you're saying this is low tech?
So it could be either, but I think a simple solution to this that would also be entertaining would be to get two personalities that are very well informed, one from the left and one from the right, maybe even three, and then a moderate two, and they all have a conversation. Well, here's what I believe to be the truth, right? I think it'd be entertaining.
So why doesn't Chris and Dan's show become this then?
Well, it could. You'd need to get the right personalities, but
you run it. Get the people. Get the guests.
Well, the guest would be me. I guess I could.
It's very easy. You read a bunch of articles, right? No, you'd have to be. No, you'd have to. We'd both be the moderator. We'd both have to be the moderator for this to work.
Okay.
And then you read all these articles. I'm on Twitter, so if I find like a left-leaning person on a topic, and you find a right-leaning person from an article you read, we can both message them. Like, you message the author. Those guys are accessible, the people writing these things.
Sure.
And then I'll message the Twitter user, and we'll actually find the topic first before we go hunting, and then we'll get them on.
Yeah, I guess that could work. I think at least what I would see probably working better if you want to establish something is people tend to develop a following. I think you would need three distinct personalities who are constantly on. That's right. What I think you'd probably
need. We can't get big names at first though. Like, so we just get regular people. Like, hey, you believe very strongly in this. We're gonna have someone who believes very strongly in the opposite, and put you guys together. Now, you and I are gonna have to do a good job of making sure they're both equal as far as their scientific rigor, or because we can easily just get accused of, oh, well, you handpick this guest because he's a dumbass, and then you pick this one because they're smart. So we have to like make it a fair fight, like equal, and that's gonna be the hard part.
So here is where maybe I'm not being logical or rational and being very tribal, but I think most of what the left stands behind is too emotional. It's all
right. So let me pick the left people.
Mainly in emotion.
Let me pick the left people, and you pick the right people.
Yeah, all right.
And then when we get good at this, we go. You pick we'll switch. It'll be fun. Let's just make that as the new angle for the Chris and Dan show.
But okay, I think it very much would work if it was done well enough. And I think people would become very reliant upon it, because I would be reliant upon it, right?
So what's well enough then? Like,
here's a place where I can go, and at least at the time, these people believe they're telling the truth. It's not tribal.
Right.
They honestly believe in what they're saying.
Right.
And then you have a debate.
But we'd have to be very good moderators. Like, we couldn't pick sides, even though we picked our person.
Sure.
You can't. We have to be like as fair as possible to them.
As I said, I'm anti-war. The right, I'm very much on the right. The right believes and is pushing against the Ukrainian war, and now I'm against that kind of. right? I'm both for and against the war now.
So why you don't think we can't pull this off then?
I certainly can change my position based on the facts.
Right.
The problem is you're not presented with the facts. Now, why wouldn't this necessarily work? Because I don't know how well we could design this in terms of getting personalities on. I think it's
finding
difficult.
people.
You think you could get people just to come on our show, an unestablished show? I just don't think that would work.
We're established. We already have like 3,000 subs.
You think that's enough for that would?
Yeah, we're not going for like Ben Shapiro versus like
Of course
Hassan
not.
Piker.
No, of course not.
We're going for like, people with like a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand followers that want to build their brand.
All right.
And eventually we'll grow into it. If it's successful, we'll get bigger names.
Sure.
I'm down to do this.
Well,
we can't interject our opinions in the conversation, I think is
sure. I'm down to do it if it developed into something in which the truth was the ultimate objective.
Yeah. So you find a topic. Let's say it's global warming, right? We both interviewed the author from this book that was on our show. I can have him come back. And now you find a global warming contrarian.
Well, see, the problem with global warming is there is no evidence either way in terms of certainty.
So there's no truth then?
There is no truth really to speak of. There's only tribal stance, right?
Right.
So the only truths would be like this fact, right? How many people a year die from global warming or leave global out? How many people die a year from warmth, right? And how many people die a year from cold? Right?
So what about climate change? Global warming's like maybe an outdated term. Well, climate change.
Even that really. So.
Or CO2 emission. Maybe we get more specific and it becomes easier.
See, it's like saying pro-choice, right? All these terms evolve because it's a political thing, right?
Right.
You can't defend global warming when the climate's not warming, which it's not for the last 20 years, right? So you change it to climate change so you can maintain the political stature.
So then what you're saying is this idea is impossible because there are no truths.
One. Yes, that particular one.
Well, you said three. You said global warming, climate change, CO2 emissions, and pro-choice. That's four. Four big ones. So let's go down the list. Which one can be done?
So it depends on what you're after. There may not be a truth to many of these things, right?
That's what my entire point of many conversation with you is we know very little about the actual truth.
Well, no, but we do know some truths, like I was about to say. So 500,000 people die a year from the heat, okay? Almost 5 million people a year die from the cold. So really, which one's more harmful? And what is our ultimate goal? Is it to save people or save the planet? Right.
But you have to be open.
Argue, but
you have to be open to the fact that people lie with statistics all the time. So you can have need these debates.
Well, how's that lying? That's a fact. 500,000.
But how do you know it's a fact though?
Because it's on the CDC, and they're not lying in terms of heat.
You believe them?
No, I don't believe them, but they're political to the left, not the right. Right.
Right, right. But that's just an example. But how do you know? Like sometimes these debates need to be had, even if you think the numbers are not provable, because there are people that can make the data look however they want.
Okay, fine. So then what are you debating?
I think just having the conversation of two opposing extremes and then having us in the middle.
So there's no resolution. There's no ultimate resolution.
The resolution is in the exploration. It's the user, the viewer, the listener should leave from that with new ideas to explore for themselves. There won't be like okay, we've solved the issue of global warming, because then we'd make a lot more than just doing a podcast.
Well,
the outcome should be the audience is more informed, more well-rounded. Maybe they've considered it's something they haven't considered before, and they can research more of themselves.
So then what you're talking about is potentially up to a 3 to, I would say, 5 hour show for some of these topics, because what global warming, if you were having that conversation, really what that would kind of delve more mainly into would be political, not necessarily actual. Is it warmer? Is it colder?
There'd be layers
Are
of
we all
it
going to
because
die?
yeah, because regulation is the lever for that is we got to fix the planet. I watched something on Twitter. Obama was telling his daughter, 1 degree Celsius will change whether Bangladesh is underwater or not. Like, it just sounded like hyperbole, but there's people that, I mean, he's a good speaker, he's a good orator, and it's a talking point. So
So
it won't
yeah,
just be like one debate that ends it all on global warming. It could be like a series of debates. I think we should keep the format an hour, hour and a half, and just if we need a part two, have two more experts on, two different ones.
well, all I could, the only result I see in this is just two sides taking jabs at one another. I don't even
Right,
know.
but we're kind of at a crossroads of our channel, is what I'm getting at.
Sure. I mean, I think global warming is a horrible topic in
I
terms
just
of.
pulled one out of my
No, I
ass.
understand
Okay.
that. No, I understand that. But I just don't think there's any real data. I mean,
Okay, so pick one. Um, pro Biden, pro Trump,
okay, sure. Still political, but at least
or
there's.
pro vaccine and
Sure,
I mean maybe that could be the first one.
sure.
We'll get Hazen or McCullough. We've had both on our show before from the
Yeah. Hazen
anti.
more likely than McCullough, but sure.
Sure. And then from the pro, I actually followed a few people on Twitter and they seem like they're reasonable people. Like they're nice. They actually even work in clinical research.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
I'm just saying we're at a crossroads with our channel and we can go a lot of different ways. And since the only reason I like this idea is because you're passionate about it and you've been so for a long time.
Well, let me ask you, but you're probably a bad
I'm a
example.
business person, so I want what people want.
Sure, but you're probably a bad example of target audience, right? Target audience for this would be sheep, right? At least the sheep would know the truth.
I don't think the sheep would like this. I think I might be the target audience, actually.
Well, in my
It could
mind,
evolve. It will evolve into like the sheep start coming in to cheer on
sure,
their person. And then the hope is like maybe they get a little smarter learning something from the other person, even if it's just a little less extreme than they were.
mm-hmm.
Because like as much as I love Hazen and McCullough, there's flaws in their arguments too,
Certainly.
and vice versa. RFK Jr. as well. Like one of their tactics when they debate is to keep throwing study after study, even if it doesn't make sense to what the person's asking. Here's this study, and here's this study, and here's that study, because they're prepared.
Right.
But like that's where you and I need to be like, no, but answer the
Sure,
question. Like, what
sure,
did they
good.
actually?
They always derail the conversation or go off on
Exactly.
a tangent.
And someone like RFK is like an attorney, so he's prepared for that. He's like, well, look at this study
Right.
and look at this study, and what do you think about this one?
Right.
And the other person's like caught off guard, like,
Yeah.
and then it looks like they lost, but really, they're just deflecting.
Yeah.
What the other person said.
And that's
And we're not gonna get those caliber of guests,
sure.
but we can get like knowledgeable enough people to do this from both sides.
Yeah, maybe.
The only reason I like it is because you're passionate about it and you could drive it. Like you need energy to make sure this occurs in the beginning.
The problem is I don't know very many people.
But you read plenty. You send us articles and memes every night.
Certainly, but I'm not like on Twitter. I don't have.
So what? Where do you get these articles from? Email the author. They usually have a box underneath most article. Email the author. Boom, right there. Hey, I'm running the show. I like your work. Would you be open to come on?
I hear what you're saying. I'm just being. I don't think it's gonna work, but I can try.
Dude, people are more. One of the benefits of all this crap I've been telling you about is people have never been more accessible than they are now.
Sure.
And I'm on Twitter enough to like, if you tell me a topic, hey, I need someone who's like pro Ukraine or pro guns or anti guns.
Sure.
Someone that's reasonable. I can find someone, like not a psycho, and you're not going to find a psycho either. We have to
Right.
find like reasonable people on both extremes that are willing to come on, and I think they would.
Sure. Maybe.
We can even make this pay-per-view if it gets big enough. We
Well,
can get like imagine McCullough versus
certainly.
Fauci.
Sure. Sure. I mean, the ultimate goal is, again, like I said, in my mind, would be someplace that people who don't have time to investigate what is the actual truth.
Yes.
And here, I can just come here and I can at least, if not get the truth, I can get different opinions on what the truth
Yes.
is.
That's the latter, because the truth, there's going to be degrees of it, especially for things that are not proven yet.
Some things there is truth, right?
I think things that have happened in the past, even that, though, history is rewritten by the winners.
Of course. So again, there is no, in my mind, there is no truth on whether we, at this point, whether we should be in the Ukrainian war. What I'm saying though is the facts really dictate. It's kind of up to the individual, right?
Yeah.
That's
why I think the latter of your argument, like people will come to a less extreme, hopefully come to a less extreme thought than what they had before because of something they heard from the other side that they weren't considering before. The viewers, I'm talking about, not our guests.
And I think the Ukrainian war is the best example, at least in this particular situation, just because, who's to say you should disagree with somebody who's 100% anti-war, outside of maybe like somebody committing genocide, World War II. Outside of that, right? If that's not happening, no, people should not be dying in war. And there's people like that. And I get their argument. How can you necessarily disagree with that, right? But at the same time, we have countries, we have borders. You guarantee somebody you're going to defend their border. You kind of have to follow through with your guarantee.
Well, so now the truth is predicated by someone's value system.
Oftentimes that's the case.
Which is, there's no clear winner. So back to my ideal outcome is at least the other side will consider something different for once.
Right. Everybody has the information to make a logical decision.
Right.
And not hyperbole, not lies.
Yeah. Because even like something like these are complex topics, but even in something like a small business where it's me and you, the only owners, like sometimes I want to spend more and that's my truth, like why, and then you have your truth why you want to not spend it, and that's your truth. And
no, I hate that. That topic. I hate that saying, that expression, your truth. No, there's just the truth, but there could be.
But in this case, there is no truth.
There is. There's. You can make your decision based on what the true facts are, right? Your opinion can be different than somebody else's opinion. Based on what
so then their opinion.
Yeah. It's not
because then and like back to our simple example of like a business, like a small business. Well, what's the truth? Spend more or not spend more? Like there is none.
Well, that's the opinion.
It's the opinion.
You could still have truths, right?
You can have truth. You can have the same truths, and two people come to different opinions.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So then whatever they believe is not really a truth.
No, it's opinion.
Yeah. So then the same thing on this thing.
People are hijacking that term as when it should just be opinion.
Sure.
I mean, the definition of truth is truth, right? What is true?
Yeah, and very little is actually true that we know.
To say that's my truth, no, it's your opinion. You don't have separate truths from reality.
Sure. But anyways, let's not lose the forest from the trees. Do you think this is something that would be good to do on our show, and or would you want to
accomplish it? Sure. I mean, if it can be accomplished,
I definitely think it can. If for this to work, it's going to rely on you finding the topic and finding your guest, and then telling me what side you want, and me finding it.
Well, let me ask you this: did you know we had a treaty with Ukraine? Have you heard that anywhere?
No, I didn't.
Exactly. I mean, it's a problem, and
Right.
I haven't heard it from the left or right. And you would think the left. Why is the left not saying this
Right. So
predominantly?
now we're creating, instead of just music reactions, which we're gonna do one right now, guys. Well,
I don't
Chris
have
said
time.
he wants one.
Yeah, I don't have time.
Oh, then we won't. But we're actually providing some value, and no one else is doing it, which is a blue ocean strategy that I like.
Yeah.
So yeah, think about it, because you've been wanting to do this since 2012. You've been telling me about this.
Yeah.
So now we have the platform. We even have an audience already, like a built-in.
Sure.
We have 3,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
We can do this.
All right. I'm for it.
Well, the ball's in your court, man. The first topic and the first guest from whatever side you want is you. And then you tell me that topic and whatever side you want for me to find, and I'll find them.
All right.
I'd prefer to go left more because I'm on Twitter more and you're on Epoch Times and stuff more. So you could
I'm not on
most likely
Epoch
find more
Times.
right people.
I sent you a video of something that popped up on my feed.
No,
I'm not
I
on
know. I'm just saying you're on that stuff, and I'm not. I'm more on Twitter where it's you can find both, but you pick the side and the topic, and then tell me the opposite, and I'll
Yeah,
find it.
all right. I just don't know how well I'm going to be able to accomplish finding somebody, but I'll try.
Just email, man. It's not hard. Like most of the authors of those articles have a button that says contact author. And if you pick like 10 for one topic, one will get back to you, and I'll do the same on Twitter.
All right.
You're done, man.
I think it's going to boil down to you and I, but sure.
Of course, what startup doesn't boil down to the stakeholders?
I mean, to you and I, or I don't know. We'll see. I'll try.
I mean, you don't know. We're busy? Yeah, but this takes maybe 10 minutes a day.
No. All right.
What do you mean? You and I are going to fight on camera? Like,
yeah.
We already do that and no one watches it, so who cares?
That's exactly it. I think it's going to be difficult finding these people, but I could be wrong.
I don't want to debate you on these things. That's boring, man. I want to moderate and run a business.
Sure.
Like, and learn. I don't want to just sit here and like talk about how both extremes are full of crap. Like, who cares? I already know this. I want to just moderate, create a channel and your vision is actually good.
As I said, I definitely think it could work. It's just a matter of finding these individuals that are willing to come on.
The beauty of this is if you or I can't both moderate, we can just sub for each other. It shouldn't matter. We should be neutral.
Sure.
And you don't, even if you have an opinion, you don't interject it unless, because you don't want to do that. We would have to set up rules for what we can do. Because you may like be into it and be like, yeah, no, and then you want to say something. I feel like you and I should just
be on the sideline.
Just don't let them argue like to where there's no communication, right? Like, just, hey, stop. Let this person say something. Something like that. Like, don't interject. Oh, yeah, I agree with you. And then maybe we both agree with one guest. The other guest gets pissed. And we want to just like let them go and be us in the middle. You don't even need both of us on it. You just need one.
Sure.
That's my thoughts. It's your vision, though.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. However, a lot of times people talk over others' heads, and I do this and it doesn't even have to be a debate. I do this frequently, and I do it intentionally. What I hear you saying. So restating what they're saying to make it less complex.
Yeah, and to get to the closer to the truth.
Right. Interjecting in that format, I don't think is a problem.
No. No matter how fair we try to be, if this gets big enough, we will be accused of pandering certain guests and being hostile to others. But I mean, it's still views, and as long as you're true to your mission statement, which I believe in, I just don't want to execute on it as much as you will. Because I'm not as passionate as you, but I'll do my part.
Sure. You like harassing people.
No, I don't.
Well, I mean, you have no problem saying, "Hey, come on the pod."
I like doing businesses where you creating content to drive leads for something, whatever
Okay.
that something is.
All right. Well, I guess I'll have to start saying, "Hey, come on the pod."
Yeah, just you good at emailing. Just email.
Yeah. All right. Sounds like a plan.
Ball's in your court. Guys, if this doesn't work out, it's just Chris to blame, not me.
My fault. You're not
Yes.
getting the truth because of me.
Yes. And this is beautiful, even though we're both busy. You can say, I got these guests, we got this date. Can you do it? No, I can't, man. You do it. Okay, I'll do it. We'll try to both be on it, but it works with just one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
All
gonna be amazing, man. Your vision's amazing.
right.
And then maybe the Daily Wire will acquire us, and then I'll exit, and Ben Shapiro can take it over. And he'll hire you because you're passionate about it, and he'll tell me to fuck off, and I'm happy to do that.
Just so long as he puts some cash in your hand.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Fair enough.
Or sell it to the leftists. I'll sell it to NPR too. Money's money.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right.
Well,
And then they'll probably keep me on and tell you to fuck off.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Distinct possibility.
All right, guys. It's Chris and Dan's show. This is where we're going to be headed if Chris is up for the challenge.
Yeah.
July
See
7th,
what kind of return
2023.
we get.
July 7th, 2023. If you're watching this in 2024 or beyond and you haven't seen this, there's only one man to blame, and he's right
Thanks.
there.
So kind of you, Dan.
You're welcome, man. No pressure.
All right. Well, as Dan says, July 7th, 2023, which is Friday. Everybody have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.